Hello and good morning, he said, reading from the great book of notes. It's the 14th today, and it's Friday. We're up to day 87. I got 3 more days, so that's, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Stiff as a motherfucker from deadlifting yesterday. But I'm finally up to numbers that I was lifting when I was on my regular testosterone injections, and I'm pulling for reps a number that I was pulling when I was working towards a competition years ago, right before I right before I hurt my back. But my technique and my form is a lot better, and yeah. And the other day I measured my weight and I was 173, and the heaviest I've ever been is 175. And as someone who was for a long time in the 120s slash 130s, um, I'm not a really tall person. But still being in the 120s, 130s was, rake thin. It's not attractive. It's not attractive looking in the mirror. It's not attractive to women. It's not attractive to your partner. And it doesn't give you any presence, as much as it sucks to say it, but there is, you can make space for yourself with your confidence, but it took me getting a physique to develop that type of confidence. Um, and after having gained that physique, then I sort of felt better and had that presence. And I'm still not a big guy. I'm still would call myself, lean. But yeah, being up to 173 is, and it's been casual. Like, I haven't had to really work hard at it outside of what I do in the gym. I just eat a comfortable amount of food every day, and it's mostly pretty clean. I'd say like 90% of the food that I eat is clean, and yeah, I can't complain. Pretty happy about that. My new book has been going great. I've been really enjoying the reading that I've done from it so far. I only came to my sort of political slash philosophical standing, like leaning. I only really came to understand what mine was a few years ago. It took me into my mid-30s to really figure out where I stood on different things. And I expect that those things will change over the course of time. But there are some things that haven't changed. Not like, and I said this to someone actually on Reddit. I remember that it was a guy who was quitting dope, and he was like, "I'm really trying to find myself," and I was like, "You're never gonna find yourself. It's an inward." What I've found is people who say that they're still trying to find themselves are the ones who are struggling the most, or the ones who are exhibiting the most loser behavior, because rather than activating and rather than self-actualizing and self-activating their life around them, they spend all their time looking inwards, trying to discover something that, in my opinion, doesn't exist. There's no yourself inside of you. There's no core in the middle. There's no toffee core in the middle that you're gonna discover and be like, "Oh, that's me. Ah, great." What it is you find your principles and you find your values. And principles and values are permanent or semi-permanent. They can move a little bit, but they tend to be the more long-lasting things. Finding yourself is, in my opinion, is a way of it's a way of shirking or avoiding your responsibilities in your life that's outside of you. And because we are creatures that operate by association with others, and we operate in a world that's outside of ourselves, outside of our brains, worrying about finding yourself is utterly pointless. And yeah, the things that you need, if you want to look inside and find, are things like I said, like values or principles, things that you hold dear, or beliefs about certain things or behaviors, your standards for yourself. Those things are worth finding out, but you're never going to find yourself. And fuck, I forgot where I was going with this. Hang on, let me have a look at my notes here. That's what I was getting at. This book is starting to feel like an education, on why I think the way that I do, and why I carry some of the beliefs that I carry, and it's providing justification for the reasons why I feel those ways. It's not so much that I've gotten to a position and I'm looking to justify the position. Let me rephrase that. It is that a little bit, because how I was raised and the things that I came to value and the principles that I came to understand that I had about myself, or rather the principles that I have in general, caused me to act and to believe and to interact in a certain way, and have certain beliefs and certain ideas about society and about politics and about relationships and that sort of thing. And this book is about giving more background information to why those beliefs come to be and why they come together. And I have actually really enjoyed every time I pick the book up and read a half a dozen pages. I walk away with something valuable, because the way that the things that it talks about. For example, briefly, the author talks about, Roger Scruton talks about, he uses a family as a sort of a small, easy to relate to example of why we need a sense of nationalism, why nationalism is necessary. And of course, he highlights when nationalism goes crazy, with Germany and Russia and the United States, and essentially World War II was kind of like the pinnacle of where you can take nationalism to its worst possible conclusion. But the sense of nation and the sense of belonging to the nation, he reduces it down from a macro look to a more micro look at the family level, and says, when families get together to discuss things that are relating to the family, there's going to be dissenting opinions and dissenting ideas, and people are going to have conflict within that family. But a healthy family will agree to abide by whatever the outcome is of the discussion, because they are more invested in having the family stay together and stay functional than they're invested in their opinion being right, and essentially that being exclusive of their family. And so what this allows is, it allows within a group, it allows people who are joined by something that's intangible to have disagreement and to be able to have rational discussion. It allows compromise instead of dictatorship. It means that people can talk and sort of come to an agreement between the two of them, because they're invested in the continuation of the greater the greater body. It's as if, it's like, your left hand and your right hand don't look the same, and they don't necessarily act exactly the same, but they act in concert in order to, continue the body. And so does a family, so too also does a nation. You have this geographical outline of a nation, so it has a physical delineation from other nations, and within that nation there are values and beliefs and societal expectations and norms and traditions that help to continue the nation's sort of image, the identity of the nation. And regardless of the different political leanings and the different religious leanings and the different like beliefs about the free market, or about social welfare or any of these other things, we all have a vested interest in the nation continuing. Because if we don't, and if we all were to dig our heels in, that's when you have civil war. When there are issues so big that people are like, no, I would rather fuck this nation and fuck it up for everyone else than compromise on what I believe. And that's when you end up getting into the place of civil war, or, and what we're seeing now is these culture wars, where the left and the right don't compromise on anything anymore. It's all or nothing. It's one way or the other, and when you look at it particularly on social media, it's libtards and Democrat idiots and conservative redneck scum, and Republicans must all die in a fire. People are willing, for the sake of their hubris and for the sake of their egos and their opinions, all of which are nothing compared to how important it is to maintain a nation. These people are ready to sacrifice the nation on the altar of their egos and their hubris. And he talks about in the book is sort of why it's important that there is a sense of nation, why nationalism has a place in a society, why it's necessary. And again, for the people who are watching this who may be sitting there going, yeah, but what about World War II, and what about false patriotism? Well, those are extreme ends of nationalism, but that doesn't mean that the center ground within nationalism is not a healthy place to be. It's healthy to be patriotic. It's healthy to have a geographic sort of reference, a geographic limit, that everyone within it is working towards maintaining that nation, maintaining the economy, maintaining the courts and the systems of law, maintaining the manners and the politeness of people around you, so that you can go out and make a mistake and be able to say sorry and have people go, I get it, it was a mistake, instead of flipping out, pulling a gun and starting to blow your brains out. And the divisiveness of what we see now in politics, and particularly in social politics, is forcing everything apart, and it's breaking that cohesion. And in the middle of that, as we've seen already, the conversations don't happen as much. The compromises are less and less. And when the compromises begin to happen less and less, you start to have what is the alternative, which is a dictatorship. So whoever's in power is essentially going to just sort of do it by what they want. And I think that's sort of where we've started to see, particularly from the executive branch in the last 2 terms, or even 3 terms really. We've seen the executive branch exercise more power than is probably appropriate, because we've got these 2 sides thing happening, and people are like, well, I'm a Republican and I'm right, I'm a Democrat and I'm right. Well, you might both be right, you might both be 50% right or whatever, but we still have to compromise to keep the ship going. And by having that first person plural, we the people of this country, it allows for that. It allows for the compromise, and it allows for the rational discussion and the rational disagreements as well. So yeah, anyway, I know I've blathered on about this for the last 6 minutes, but it's important to me. It's like I said, I'm getting a lot of value out of this book, and when I come here to do my videos, the purpose of these videos is to get things out into the open and let me hear them and decide whether or not I like them or not. And so far, I've been pretty happy. I think I've decided that when I go for my vacation, this is off topic a little bit, or it's on topic for the video. It's on topic. I've decided that I'm not going to jump on. I'm not going to grab a pen or any dope and take it down with me. I was talking to my girl last night, and the way it came out, sort of, I was exhausted from working out, so my brain was working a little bit faster than my body. And I said, and I think this is the case, that marijuana is starting to feel like something I used to do, and it's a person that I don't identify with anymore who used to do that. that drug addict part of me is a part of like the unwilling or unwitting drug addict, the person who knew that they were a drug addict but didn't care or tried to justify it. That person is a person of my past. More and more, that's the sense that I get from it. And if I dip my toe back in that pool again, it's kind of flirting with the idea of being that person again. And I like where I've come from. I like where I'm going. I like the direction I'm going more than I like where I came from, and I think that's important. So yeah. Anyway, that's it for me today. Happy Friday, everyone. Ka kite.